Hello and welcome to another video by myself, Chris from Sorare On A Budget. Today's video, I'm going to be taking a quick look at the current situation with ETH. There's been a lot of people talking about it on Twitter. I've had quite a lot of DMs about people saying, what should I do? People panicking and wanting to sell up and all this kind of thing. So I thought I'd put a very quick video together just to discuss, my thoughts on it. I'm by no means have I ever claimed to be a financial expert when it comes to crypto or anything like that. I'm just going to go on my experience of what happened in May of last year when there was a big crash from 3K down to about 1200. So I'm going to basically just talk about that, how it affected Sorare and what it made me personally realize. So yeah, as a kind of, I should really always wait until I click on the first slide before I start talking about what I'm going to talk about. So anyhow, but yeah, current situation we're going to talk about, what it means in Sorare, how does it change things, and what's my strategy for that. If you're new to the channel, please, if you could press the subscribe button, it'd be a massive help out to me. And also, if you're new to Sorare, with ETH dropping in price, it's sometimes a good time to buy in because you're able to get more ETH for your money, and you can take advantage of where people haven't changed their prices and things like that. So SorareOnABudget.com, you'll get your 10 free common cards you can use in the casual league, and then when you bought 5 you can use them. You'll get a free card from Sorare, limited cards, which you could then sell or you could use in your SO5 leagues. Just as a little side note, a little picture on the side, usually it's a player, but it's the biggest signing of the summer in the Gibson household. We're expecting a wee one, 16th of July. I absolutely cannot wait. That explains why I've made quite a few strategy changes in the last few weeks, and I've not been able to properly explain as to why. I have given genuine reasons for them, but the bigger picture is I've got a lot of saving to do between now and July. So yeah, thanks for all the messages and all the congratulations and things like that. It's been fantastic. It's been the hardest secret I've had to keep for a long time. So yeah, onto the video. So what I'm going to first take a look at is ETH itself, what its value has been over the last year, and I'm going to point out a couple of points. So in terms of this big crash that we've got just now, obviously we've kind of gone from about 3,600, and this is in pounds. If you'll have to convert it to dollars and euros and what have you, but in terms of my currency and the pounds, it's basically halved over the last 2 months, maybe 7 weeks. It's gone from about 3,600, which was your high point up here, and we're currently trading away down here. So that's not, if you're holding ETH on its own, that's not great news for you. However, it happened last year around this point, so there was a massive spike in sort of April, mid to late April, and it spiked up to about 3 grand here. And then over the course of just 2 weeks, it dropped down to, sorry, I've got my scores kicking through at the same time here, because Adana Demispor are playing just now. It's just come up that they've scored, and I'm hoping that Jonas Svensson has something to do with it, because he's playing pretty decently. So apologies for that, a bit of a distraction. But yeah, you could see that this drop off here, this is where it really went nuts. It went from 3 grand to 1,400. I think eventually, into July, went down as far as 13, maybe 1,200 at one point. So that was dramatic. Now, I'd only just started playing Sorare right about here. So I got in quite low, and then it crept up and what have you, and everything seemed to be rosy. Not gonna lie, when that started to drop like that, I panicked. I really panicked. I'd got my gallery from about £300 up to about 1,200, and I started to think, God, is it really from what I've done, or is it just because ETH has gone up in value that my money has gone up? And I was really quite panicking. I think I posted a video about this last year, one of my early videos, talking about the big crash, as it was called. But I was genuinely having some sleepless nights worrying about it, and I was quite, like, oh God, 1,200 quid disappearing in flash of an eye or that sort of thing. But it wasn't the case. People had said to me, people value everything, or most people value their galleries in their own currency, whether it be the pound, dollar, euro, that sort of thing, known as the fiat. So I didn't necessarily take that on board. I continued to really look at it in the ETH, and when it was plunging, I started to really kind of panic. But I'm going to go into how that actually affected into Sorare in a wee minute. So just for perspective, though, I'm on the 23rd of January last year. So basically, a full 365 days ago, ETH was only 873 quid. And it's now 1840. And although it's been as high as 3600 and things like that, it's an extremely volatile market. You can just look at that graph. It's worse than any roller coaster you'll ever be on. But just for perspective, it is up 110% on the year. So these things do happen. There's market corrections, there's booms, there's reasons for it. There's all sorts of, with the crypto market, I've never seen anything so volatile. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just show you how I looked at that for myself within Sorare. So I actually can't see what my thing is, so I'm going to scroll that down just a little bit. There we go. So let's look at Sorare data first of all. So when all this started to kick off in late November, when it started to come down from its heights, I had my gallery valuation at that point was 2.1, 2.2. So that was quite a lot. And over the last few weeks, it's steadily crept up in terms of the ETH value, but the value underneath here, which is sitting at dollars just now, it keeps resetting for some reason on my laptop. There must be a setting I'm not done. That stayed steady between about $8,500 and $9,000. So it's really sitting about kind of, the $6-7 grand bracket is where it's kind of, been in about there, 6.5 to 7 grand. And but the ETH value has continued to go up for the valuation. The reason for that is, as I say, because people tend to value their players in their own currency, it's basically meant that the players' values stay steady with their own currency. So what you'll tend to see is a player that's maybe, say that was 100 quid today, it was also 100 quid 3 days ago when it was sitting at 2400 for 1 ETH. But the ETH valuation will have changed, and that will start to correct itself. It did correct itself from the sort of the heights of the 3.5 when it leveled off about 2400 as it had done. It stayed fairly steady at those prices. It corrected. Players' valuations all kind of adjusted. Last night when I had a quick look at this whilst I was at work, the valuation was 2.81. So I have done zero trading and my ETH valuation's gone up, and that's just because the market starts to correct itself. Over the coming days, I wouldn't doubt that that's going to probably creep into the sort of 3.1, 3.2 range, but it won't make a big difference. It's just going to be correcting that valuation. It's one of the great things about Sorare, because you're actually holding the cards themselves, they do correct themselves. The market does fix, Now, there are people who, solely value their galleries in ETH. That's how I did it when I first started. But to be honest, for me personally, that was a misunderstanding. And it's something that I disagree with. I'll happily listen to people's opinions and have, a constructive conversations about. It's just something that isn't right. As far as I'm concerned, ultimately the cards are, I value mines in the pounds and things like that. So that's what it means to Sorare, and how it changes things. For me personally, is this last few weeks, I've not held a balance really. Up until late November into early December, I was holding a fair bit of ETH. For me anyway, I was sitting with sort of like, anything between 0.2 and 0.3 ETH, which, was a massive amount of money. But then, I was using that to then buy and trade and things like that. At the moment, I don't have a single card listed on the market because I don't want to have something sat at a price and then it continues to free fall. I'm working, I can't check it. And all of a sudden, ETH crashed to 1400 and my player's now worth 30%. Well, I've got them listed for 30% less than what's acceptable. So I don't have a single player listed. So that's one strategy change. Until the market levels out, I won't have a player listed. And the other thing is I tended to find last year, kind of like, as I say, May into June, was there was a lot more trades went on as opposed to just straight ETH purchases. This last little while, there's been a lot of ETH purchases, things like that. The market's been very, very liquid. But what you'll probably find is that people like myself are going to be reluctant to sell a card below the level. Now, some people won't correct their prices, and until those cards are bought off the market, it does affect the price. So I'm not going to list something, sub what I'm prepared to take for it. And as I say, once the market corrects, it will go back to that level where, I'm not concerned about, I'm not concerned about losing value, put it that way. If I was sitting holding a massive ETH balance, then yes, absolutely, I would be trying to spend that as quick as I could. Or I would be taking it out into cash and sitting in my bank until I feel more comfortable about it. But, I don't think that's the right thing. I've put mine into cards. I've got 0.03, which I've sent out on an offer for a player to see if I can get hold of them. And then that will be me sat with a zero balance. And I'll be quite content with that until things correct themselves. So that's my strategy, is to really just sit and ride it out. If I see players that I'm interested in, I'm probably going to look to see if I can trade for them with a kind of, like for like sort of value at the moment. And the market will correct itself. I've no doubt of that. Sometimes when it corrects the other way, where the market starts to shoot up in value, that's when you start to see some really nuts prices, and it takes a wee bit of time for that. That's a bit slower to react. People, at that point are looking like, oh, no, this is still worth 0.1 ETH. You're like, well, no, it wasn't. So it was 150 quid 2 days ago. It's not worth 300 quid today just because ETH's gone up. So you just... it does correct itself. It tends to correct itself quicker coming down than it does going up, but it will correct itself. So I wouldn't. My main message to people is, don't worry too much about it. It will fix itself. The market, I mean, ETH. We don't know where that'll go. I have no knowledge, insight, or anything like that in regards to that. I read the same news sites as anybody else does, and that changes quicker than the weather in Scotland. So I'm kind of just going to really leave it at that. I don't want to go much more into depth than that, because to be honest, as I've said right at the outset of the video, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in crypto. All I'm going on is the experience that I've had in the last year with Sorare. So for anybody new, the panic will be there. I had it last year in May when it happened for the first time when I was on board. It hadn't crashed, everything was going up, and when it did crash, it scared the shit out of me. But when I looked back on it after a few days or a couple of weeks, I was like, what was I actually worried about? It just balances itself out. So keep the faith, folks. If you're thinking of selling up your gallery just because ETH's crashing, I think you'd be mad, but that's my opinion. So happy to have a conversation with anybody about it. Happy to have an open forum about it. I could maybe even do a live thing some point, and we could chat about it, and we'll take it from there. But yeah, no, I think it'll be an interesting journey. But as I say, I'll try and post relatively, regular updates in terms of what the ETH valuation is showing on Sorare data for what the players are actually valued at, and I would put money on that correcting itself and staying in a, in terms of the fiat value, staying in a fairly steady. It will drop off a little bit, but it won't drop off much. So that'll be that, I think, guys. So I'm going to just usual screen. Thanks to everybody who subscribed to the channel. We're getting very, very close to that 1,000. If you haven't subscribed already, please just press the button. You can switch notifications off, but if you've got it subscribed, it makes a massive difference, especially that little one on the way. If I can monetize the channel, that'd be great, because I don't monetize it in any other way, and I have no plans to do either. If you have any ideas for upcoming videos or want to hear my thoughts on anything, I'll be happy to do so. Drop it in my DMs or just mention it on Twitter. As I said before, if you're new to Sorare and you want to give it a go, SorareOnABudget.com, and that'll take you straight to the Sorare site, and you'll get your freebies when you join. And follow me on Twitter at Sorare On A Budget. So that's it. I'm off to get ready for work. I'm on the back shift today, and it's a 3 o'clock start, and I'll be finished about midnight, unfortunately. So I'll keep an eye on my Twitter whilst I can, and I will speak to you all again soon. Take care, guys.